Whoops. Well, shoot. There we go. Okay. We're filling out a frequency distribution table, and it says 65 randomly selected car salespersons were asked the number of cars they generally sell in 1 week. And it says 13 people answered that they generally sell 3 cars. Here is number 3, and the frequency is 13. It's the number of times that you are told, hey, I sold 3 cars. And then it says 20 sell 4. So here's the number 4, and 20 goes there. And then 12 sell 5. Here's 5, so I'll put the 12 there. And then 10 generally sell 6. So 10 goes there. And last, 10 generally sell 7. So here's number 7, and there's a 10. Now, when you're doing relative frequency, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to, where is it? Here it is. Here's the problem in Mobius for me. You can see I put 13, 20, 12, 10, and 10. And then it says, what's the relative frequency? Well, the relative frequency is there were a total of 65 randomly selected car salespersons. So for each one of these, if 13 of them said, hey, I sold 3 cars, that was 13 out of 65. And then it would be 20 out of 65, 12 out of 65, 10, and 10 out of 65. And I went ahead and put all those numbers in there so you can see them. I don't know yet if Mobius is going to count it wrong because I didn't reduce them, because some of these could be reduced down. However, when you go to do the next column, the cumulative relative frequency, which I don't think I can draw on this. Nope, I can't. Okay. When you go to do this last column here, relative cumulative, you're basically just adding up as you go. So initially I've got 13 out of 65, but then the next one here was 12 out of 65. You would add that to the 13, so that this line right here is going to have, you'd add 13 65ths to 20 65ths, and that'd be 33 65ths. And then the next line is 12 out of 65. So now you're going to add the 12 onto the 33. And then this line right here, what's 12 and 33, would be 45 out of 65. And you just keep adding. So that's what I did, just addition. So I'd add, the next one is 10 65ths. I'd add to the 45. And I'd get 55. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving on this or not. And then the last one was another 10, and 10 and 55 is 65 out of 65, which could be written as one whole. So that's that. And then it says next, what does the frequency column sum up to? Here's my frequency column. So when I add all these up, that's just going to add up to the 65 people. And then it wants to know, what does the relative frequency column? Relative frequency column is this one, but if you added all those up, you would also get 65 out of 65, also known as one whole. And the next part is a drop-down thingy, so I'm going to go back to Mobius. Boop. So you can see I put in my answer 65, one whole. And then it says, what is the difference between relative frequency and frequency? The first question they ask is frequency. And it's a drop-down box, and your 2 choices are, frequency is either the proportion of all the data sets which have that value, or the number of times that data value occurs. Well, frequency is the number of times that it occurs. The relative frequency is the percentage, which is also known as the proportion. You're comparing 2 numbers there. So 13 out of 65, 20 out of 65. So that's proportion. And then it says, what is the difference between cumulative relative frequency and relative frequency? And then, of course, the first question is the relative frequency. We already had the answer to that. That's the proportion of all the data points which have that value. Boop. And the relative frequency is the proportion of all the data points which have that value or less, because you're keeping up with it as you go along. And then they ask for the histogram, and the histogram is going to be these numbers: 13, 20, 12, 10, and 10. Let me go back to my whiteboard. So when I'm looking at my histogram here, the first one has to go, the red one, that's going to be right here at 13. The blue one would be higher, that'd be 20. So up to here would be at a height of 20. Then the yellow one is at 12, so that would be a little lower than the 13. That'd be where 12 is. Doot. And then I got a 10, so 10 would be a little lower. And then the last one is also 10. So we're looking for a histogram that looks like that. And I'm looking at multiple guess on this. So looks like D. 13, 20, 12, 10, 10. So it's D. And now let's go back up and hit the how did I do and see what it didn't like about my work. It liked everything. Look at that. Bada bing, bada boom. So it didn't care that I didn't reduce my fractions. You know, most math teachers, they'll get all bent out of shape when you don't reduce your fractions, but this is a computer. Anyway, that's how you do that one.